Hi, Math 055. Under this light, it looks like I have a little halo, huh? So, this is day 2 of slope, and so we're continuing on that worksheet that says Math 050 slope on it. And we're looking now at number 2, review of y-intercept and x-intercept. So, here's a clean graph. Remember, any points that are on this line will be the x-intercept. Any points that are on the y-axis will be the y-intercept. Y-intercept always has a 0 and then the actual point where it is located. And the x-intercept will always have a number first, like 4, 0, 2, 0, 1, 0, negative 4, 0. Okay, so the x-intercept has the numbers first, y-intercept has the 0 first. Okay. All right, number 4. Oh, I'm sorry, number 3. Number 3 says complete 1 through 4 and 13 through 14 on page 665. And those you can turn in today, whenever you finish it. So page 665. Number 1 gives you a red line, and it's asking you, it says for each of these, find the y-intercept and the x-intercept. So if you look at that line, you can see that we have a point here, and we have a point here. So one of those is the y-intercept, and one of those is the x-intercept. So go ahead and write what you think it should be, and then I'll tell you. So for number 1, the y-intercept is going to be 0, 5. And the x-intercept is going to be 2, 0. That is pretty sloppy writing. Sorry about that. Okay, then number 2, go ahead and look at your graph. And hopefully you said 0.03 is the y-intercept. I'm going to call the y-intercept b because we do that in math. So b is equal to 0, 3. And then the x-intercept, I'll just put x for now. And on your graph, the x-intercept was the 4, 0. How are you doing with that? Okay. Okay. All right, and then line number 3. So the x-intercept, or the b, is equal to 0, negative 4. The y-intercept is the 3, 0. Or the x-intercept, wow, sorry about that. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 4. X-intercept, 3, 0. Okay, and then the last one is number 4. Go ahead and take a look at that graph. I looked at it completely wrong. Okay, so for number 4, the y-intercept was 0, negative 5, or positive 5. And again, that's represented by a B. And the x-intercept is a negative 3, 0. Okay. All right, so we're talking about slope today as well as the intercepts. And if you look at this first line, the red line, positive, negative, 0, or undefined slope. Yeah, negative, you can see that it's falling. So both the negative 3, 5 and the negative 4, 3 are positive slopes because you can see them climbing upward. All right. It also asks us to look at 13 and 14. So 13 and 14 at the bottom of page 665. And it's asking us to find the intercepts. And so they give us the equation x plus 3y is equal to 6. And they're having us use a table. So we have x and y. And so if x is 0, 0 plus 3y is equal to 6, we're now going to solve for the y. So we get 3y is equal to 6. We divide by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2, so y is equal to 2. So our our y-intercept is going to be 0, 2. Again, I'm going to represent it by B so that you can get used to seeing that as the y-intercept, so 0, 2. So then to find the x-intercept, we can use that same equation, only the y is going to be 0, so it's going to be, we're solving for x. X plus 3 times 0 is equal to 6. So 3 times 0 is 0, so then x would equal 6. Okay, and so now we can bring down a graph. So our two intercepts were 0, 2 and 6, 0. So we'll start with 0, 2, the y-intercept, and then the x-intercept is 6, 0. So we have our 2 points, and I'll go ahead and graph those. You can also see that this is falling, so the slope is negative. And then looking at 14, we have a new equation. We have x plus 2y is equal to 2. And so again, let's start by finding the y-intercept. So in the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is 0. So we've got, we're going to try having the x be 0. So 0 plus 2y is equal to 2. So we've got 2y is equal to 2. Then we'll divide by 2. So y is equal to 1. So our y-intercept then is going to be 0, 1. Okay. We're going to do the same thing looking for the x-intercept by putting a 0 for the y. So we have x plus 2 times 0 is equal to 2. 2 times 0 is 0, so x is equal to 2. So then we can put down a graph. So 0, 1, here's 0, here's 1, 2, 0, 2, 0. You can see x-intercept, you can see y-intercept. And unfortunately, it's falling too. So we have 2 negative slopes today for our examples. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. Unfortunately, my computer turned off again, so take me just a minute. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna find slope using a graph and rise over run. So it's asking us to find the point 2, 1 and 6, 3. So 2, 1 and 6, 3. Okay, so in order to find the slope with 2 points, and you can see that it's going to be a positive slope already because you can see it climbing, we're going to start from this point and we're going to see how much it rises. So it rises 1, 2. And then we're going to see what the run is. The run is the horizontal distance. So it rises 2. So that's going to be the first part of our slope. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 would be the horizontal distance or the run. Rising 2, running 4. So our slope is 2 over 4, which could be reduced to 1/2. And the reason that we like to have that is because we can make another point. So now we could use the slope. I'm going to go ahead and use 2 over 4. I'm going to use it here by falling 2, and then I'm going to go to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see that that point is just right in line. I could also use this point and rise 2, 1, 2, and then I'd have to go over 4, which would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, which is off my graph, but you can see it still would work. Okay, I could find another point from this point. I could fall 2 and go over to the left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so all of those points should be in a pretty straight line. Well, that was a pretty good guess for that one. There we go. I wanted to move it down, but it didn't want to. Okay. All right, so now B says, with the points 2, -4, and a -3, 2, find the slope. So our first slope again was, so with your graph paper, go ahead and plot those 2 points. And so now we're going to figure out what the slope is. And so we're falling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our slope is 6 over 5. But we also need to take into consideration that the line is falling. And so that would be a -6, 5. We could find another point. See if I can make the graph move. Graph doesn't want to move. It still doesn't want to move. Okay, we can find another point by using either this point or this point and rising 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'd be like there. And then going to the left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'd be like right there. Or we could fall 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then over to the right 5, which would be about right there. Your graph paper probably is going to have limitless space, so you would have a better chance of making a nicer line than what I'm having. So you can kind of see that, I guessed pretty good. That's right in line. And on this one, I don't know. Okay. So again, you can see that the line is falling, so it is negative. And that is how you find slope with points on a line. Now the other way that you find slope, and we use this more because sometimes it's difficult to count. Maybe it won't work for the space on our graph, or maybe the numbers are so large that it makes it difficult just to count. And so in these cases, we can also find slope using the slope equation, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And so you're going to start with 2 points. So I'm just going to say 2, 7, and at a second point I'm going to have -3, -5. Okay? So remember that this is the x-coordinate, that is the y-coordinate. X-coordinate, y-coordinate. And then we just follow our equation. So it says y2. So this isn't like an inverted exponent. This is saying this represents 0.2, this represents 0.1, this represents 0.2, this represents 0.1. So if I say this is 0.1 and this is 0.2, then I just go ahead and subtract. So I've got a -5 minus 7. And then I do the same thing with the x's. 0.2 and -3 minus 2. Okay? And so a -5 minus 7, same thing as plus a -7, is a -12. A -3 minus 2, same thing as adding a -2, is a -5. When you have a negative in the numerator and a negative in the denominator, it's like dividing a negative by a negative. So this is actually a positive slope, and it's at 12 over 5. Okay? All right, so let's look at the examples on your paper. So we're looking at number 5 and A. A says a -4. Whoops. 3, and then it has 2, -6. So we've got x, y, x, y. 0.1, 0.2. So remember our equation says y2, so this would be y2, the -6, minus y1. y1 is 3. x2 is 2. Then we have the minus sign, a -4. This is a mistake sometimes students make, is this is subtraction and you're subtracting a negative, so you do need 2 negative signs there. Okay, so then to solve this, a -6 minus 3 would be a -9. 2 minus a -4 would be a +6. I'm going to reduce this, dividing them both by 3, so I get 3 2's. Because we have a negative sign, and it doesn't matter if the negative ends up in the numerator or the denominator, it means the whole slope is negative. So we've got a slope of 3/2, and it's a -3/2. Okay, so that was A. Let's go ahead and look at B. So we have a -2, +3, and then we have 3, 5. Okay, so remember this is x, y, x, y. We have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that would be 5 minus 3, 3 minus a -2. 5 minus 3 is 2. 3 minus a negative 2 is 5. So our slope is 2/5. There are no negative signs, so that means it's a positive slope of 2/5. Okay. And then let's go ahead and look at C. And my computer turned off again. Okay, we've got 0, -3, -3, 2. Okay, so 0.2, 0.1, 2 minus 3 minus a -3 over a -3 minus 0. 2 minus a -3 is going to be a +5. A -3 minus 0 is a -3. So we get a -5/3 for our slope. Okay, and then the next one was, or is, a -6, -1. And 0.2 is a -2, -1. So we have a -1 minus a -1 over a -2 minus a -6. Again, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this would be a -1 plus 1, which gives us a 0. A -2 plus 6 then would give us 4. So you're going to have a 0 slope. Whenever you have a 0 in the numerator, 0 divided by 4 is equal to 0. So our slope here is 0. Okay. And then let's look at E. E had the point 5, -2. And it also had a point of 5, 3. So we have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have 3, take away a -2. 5, take away 5. So 3, take away a -2 would be a +5. 5, take away 5 is 0. Remember, when you have 0 in the denominator, it's undefined. So this would be an undefined slope. And remember, if we were graphing this, an undefined slope would just be like a straight line that way, and a 0 slope would look like this. So for the 2 points that we had, let's see, for the undefined slope, we had 5, -2, and 5, 3. And so if we were plotting that, we would have 5, -2, and then we would have 5, +3. So you can see how those 2 points make that undefined slope. And then for the 0 slope, let's go ahead and also look at that one. We had a -6, -1. So a -6, -1 would be right there. And I think we had a -6, I can't remember. We had a -2, -1. So -2, -1, and you can see how those make a 0 slope. Okay. All right, very good. All right, so that is as far as we're going to go on this video, but we're going to do the next video will be on the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b. So we'll be doing that next. Okay. I'm going to eat my apple before your next video.